Okay, we are back to the podcast. Welcome. My name is Doug Sandler from Turnkey Podcast Productions. My good buddy, Mr. John Browning. Welcome back to the stage. I know everybody's listening to this in audio, so you look good, which doesn't mean anything to anybody that's listening in audio. What's going on in South Florida today?
Oh, hey, it's cooling down. So, it's no longer oppressive as far as the heat and humidity goes, but a lot of rain this year,
We're
but
hanging
all
out
good.
hanging out in Southern California. We have not had rain since March, and
Mm,
it is
yeah.
now, as of the recording of this, it's going into October. So we are due for a little rain. So all right, let's get into it today. I love this topic because this is one that we have chatted about our own families, my son specifically talking about this, and I know that you've talked to your kids about this too, and probably a lot of clients. It's why no financial product is bad, but may not be the right choice for a specific individual or family. So can we dig in with that idea and maybe get some of your input before we get rolling here?
Yeah, this is something I struggle with a lot because even some people in my same profession will sort of pick on a particular product. It's usually one that they, for whatever reason, you know, can't participate in or can't sell or they're not licensed for or something like that. So they pick on it and say it's bad or whatever. Or you can really tell what how people get paid.
Or conversely, what are they leaning into is what's their main, and again, not that this is most people that are in the world of being fiduciaries, but like what product am I going to make the greatest commission on? So maybe that's the one I really lean into. So,
Yeah, it's an issue for sure. And then you also have sort of hyper on the other side. You have hyper on both sides of this. Like, oh, well, we can't make any money for what we do. Well, that's bad. Well, that doesn't work either. Everybody's got to put food on their table. You don't want to besmirch the plumber who comes over and fixes your plumbing or the electrician who does the same thing or anybody else if they're providing the value that you need. And some people, again, even in our same profession here as fiduciaries, they get so into, well, what creates the best situation where we are not incentivized to sell one thing over another thing.
hmm hmm
And we try and be very cognizant of that here at Guardian Rock Wealth. We offer a wide range
hmm
of products and a wide range of non-products because we have the expertise to do that on an individual securities basis. But over time, it works out to we generally get this we get paid the same.
It's interesting as I go out to my garage if I'm going to go and work on one of my old trucks, and I look in my toolbox, and I have in my toolbox, which is a very large toolbox with a ton of tools. It's got wrenches of all different sizes and varieties, and ratchets and power tools and manual tools and some other stuff. And you could do the job with many of the tools that are in that toolbox, but
Yeah.
oftentimes there is a better tool to do it with because that's the one that makes the job a little bit easier, or it doesn't hurt as much, or it can be faster using a power tool as opposed, but not you can't use a power tool in some really fine screws and bolts that you have in your truck. So, same applies to life insurance. I mean, the same applies to financial products, whether it's life insurance or annuities or the market or any number of things. So let me start way at the beginning of this. How do you even know, based upon a story that you're hearing from a potential client or someone that's sitting in front of you, how do you know which things to recommend based upon the things that they are sharing with you? How does that work?
Fantastic situation or a fantastic question. And there's also all kinds of different situations. So it's hard to narrow that down, but people always get frustrated when I say it depends, right? Which I get. I hate
Everything
that too.
depends, right? It
Everything
depends.
depends. And this is not investment advice, just throwing that out there to remind everybody as well. But generally speaking, you really do have to listen. Number one, you have to understand uh, what it is that they truly want. And that I go into that in the book, Build a Life, Not a Portfolio. It's not what I want. or what I think is right for you. It's what you think is right for you. And then we get into the why you believe that. And sometimes once we ask that why question several times, the what changes. But
Hmm.
once you understand that and you understand, well, like there are some people that are very risk averse. And that just means that
Raising
and
my
Doug
hand,
raises his
right,
hands.
quickly.
Right? If you were to lose like 20% on a position in one day, that would drive you a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because you're risk averse, right,
Right,
Doug?
right, exactly. Yeah, that's an exact scenario that we discovered in March. As soon as I plunked a nice piece of change into the market, and then literally in 2 weeks, I watched that plunk go down about 20%. I'm like, that's not good. Okay, that's when I turn off the app and I say no notifications to me, and I don't look for like 60 days or 90 days. And ultimately, what happens is, not that past performance will dictate future results, but ultimately it generally comes back because the market has been really good over the last, 100 or so years.
Right.
Okay, so anyway,
So
yeah, go ahead.
so the risk tolerance is a big one. That's huge, right? So if they're risk averse, maybe something like an annuity. It also depends. Something like an annuity or life insurance product, and life insurance is not for everyone. Annuities are not for everyone. But as you get older, this is another thing. How much time do people have before they need to turn that growth thing that they've been working on for years and years and completely change their mentality
Right,
so that it's providing consistent cash flow that they can count on? Here's the big thing for the rest of their
right,
lives,
right.
no matter what happens.
Well, and
So,
like everything, there is a finite amount of resources that can fund those tools that we have. So you have to start making some decisions at some point, whether it's an annuity that you're going to invest in with a big chunk of, like a single premium annuity or something like that, or you have life insurance that you're paying into monthly and then can use the dividend to pay for the premium itself, and then you're starting to build a cash value in that, more of a cash value if you continue paying the premium, but do you have the money to continue funding it? Or the
mhm.
stock market, and then it's pre-tax or after-tax dollars that you're using to fund that, and do I fund a Roth? And then you start to say there's so many decisions to make, and the challenge is that so many people, I'm sure, get to what's it called, analysis paralysis, because there's so many things to do, they do nothing.
That's the most common thing we see, and I always say that's the biggest risk is procrastination risk. Like I could buy life insurance. I'm married, I have dependents, I have no life insurance, or I have, say, a term life insurance, which is ends after a certain period of time. And if it's not convertible to whole life, well, you may lose that right when you need it.
Right, right, exactly.
You're just renting it. I'm not, and but term insurance can serve a purpose. It's a tool when you're younger and maybe you can't afford, the full amount that you need for protection. So you buy the term and maybe buy a little bit of whole or index universal life, which we've talked about before on the show. But again, different tools for different situations, different time horizons. But the other thing, like with life insurance, is from one day to the next, you may become uninsurable. They
Mm,
don't just automatically approve you for life insurance. Um, to some degree, and long-term care insurance, they don't automatically approve you for that. So if you procrastinate and never do it, even small amounts as you can, becoming uninsurable is a really disappointing thing that we deal with quite often, and younger people than you might think. And the most common thing, and people don't realize this, the most common reason to get turned down for life insurance is if you have somewhere on your medical records that you've ever been depressed.
hmm. Interesting.
And especially if at any point in your history, you've been depressed enough to maybe consider self-harm. Oh my goodness, that will knock you right out of a lot of life insurance policies. It depends on how long ago it was and things like that, but If you've ever had an accident, maybe hurt your back,
Hmm.
well, that puts you in a different category. If you've gotten cancer and it hasn't been 10 years and you haven't shown cancer free for 10 years, probably uninsurable. And we just don't know when that kind of stuff happens. So that's another risk to consider when you're considering those type of instruments.
Also, I would assume things like life scenarios would dictate what products that you would want. A single person is going to want something different or need something different than someone that has a spouse who would need something different than has a spouse and kids who might need something different if they're in their 30s as opposed to in their 60s and getting closer
100%.
to retirement. Um, I was just going to ask, can we talk in generalities in terms of just like different products that are out there that people should even be considering as they are either in the hunt for financial products to use as a part of their diversified portfolio, or what's the best way for them to approach this?
Yeah, I think so. Let's move on to another one that has a really bad reputation because, frankly, some of the things from yesteryear, that existed, and some of the things even now that existed aren't really very good products. But the world of annuities. So if you talk, so a great story, right, is Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal, right, and a dynamic guy, right.
Right.
Um, you love him or hate him, you got to respect what he's done. And one of the things that he says publicly is, I don't really worry about my new businesses that I try and start because I do that kind of for fun, and he does. It's fun to watch what he does. But he says because I bought annuities. And
Isn't
he's
that
like, I
amazing?
don't worry about anything else because my annuities are going to pay sort of no matter what. So I'm in good shape. He's set himself up so that he can go have fun with his millions, right? He's in a different financial situation than most, but I just think that's a fun story. But you get other folks in there, maybe they're 60 or even 65, and they're telling me, well, I want to be in the market. I don't want to miss out on gains in the market. I'm like, I keep thinking, well, what you don't want to miss out on, and I try and explain this to them, is the power of zero. So with an annuity, most annuities, the only ones that we sell, have a zero downside protection. So the worst you can do, market's down 50%, you're zero.
Right.
And they will pay you what they said they were going to pay you if it's an income annuity, or you can still participate in the upside of the market. A lot of people think, again, this perception from wherever it comes from, whether it's YouTube videos or wherever, that annuities, you can't participate in the upside. There are growth annuities, but they give you that downside protection. And the real kicker is many of them, most of the ones that we would suggest, have a long-term care portion of them. So in the event that you have an accident, a diagnosis, anything happens health-wise, which as we get older, things happen. And even sometimes when we're younger, we all drive on the interstate and there are crazy drivers out there as things happen. And you can't work. If you just buy outright, just straight long term care insurance and you're in your 60s, that's really expensive and you may never use it. If you buy it through an annuity, you get kind of that Swiss Army knife. So there's so many ways you can combine things. And I'm not saying that anyone, this is a tough one. I'm gonna, I'm gonna say almost no one should have their entire portfolio in annuities,
Right. Right.
but almost everyone, if they have substantial financial resources, they've saved and they've done well as they get into their late 50s and 60s, should have a portion of their portfolio in annuities because they're the tool that serves a specific purpose.
Well, I love the Swiss Army knife analogy, and annuity certainly can serve as a part of that Swiss Army knife, as could a well diversified portfolio. Having some of your dollars in an annuity, which can provide also life insurance protection, long term care protection, and cash flow protection later on. Those are three really heavy duty components that if you haven't thought about, well, what am I supposed to do come retirement for income? The U.S.'s greatest annuity, I believe, is Social Security.
That's
But the
right. That is an annuity. Absolutely.
right,
Yeah. Guaranteed by the US government.
right. So
And you can have your own opinions on whether that's worth anything or not, but we won't get into that. But
that's okay. I never
it's
turn
an
down free
annuity.
money. So if the government is going to offer me free money because I've paid into this system involuntarily for the last 50 years, I may as well take the benefit of it. And if they are going to say they're going to guarantee it, then even better. But
Yes.
just like the Swiss Army knife, an annuity is just like the Swiss Army knife, so are the other products that you could also have in your portfolio. Having everything in the market or on a single stock, hey, I want to buy a lot of Nvidia, or I want to buy a lot of, I don't want to miss out on the next Amazon or whatever it is. You got
Hmm.
to keep in mind that that's a really risky way, in my opinion. Again, not financial advice, but it's a really risky way to approach your 50s or your 60s with, let's just throw it all on black, or let's throw it all
Yeah,
on,
right.
you
Exactly.
know, we don't know what the government or anything else is going to do to dictate how those, pretend you had all your money in TikTok if it was a public company, and then the government says, nope, we're shutting all that down because we don't want China to have that information. So that could
That's
be a
right.
really bad scene for everybody. Market's doing crazy great right now, so you feel like, man, I got to be in there. I got to be in there. But what about when it has its bear times too? We still got to figure out how to make money in the market and all of these other products. And you will be thanking John and the folks at Guardian when you Guardian Rockwell, sorry, not just Guardian. when
That's right.
when you say, "Oh, I am not just in the market. I'm in these few other financial products too." What's a meeting with you look like, John, and your team? I mean, tell me, how do you initially consult with somebody just to even begin the process of figuring out what's right for people?
Yeah, I mean, we start with what do you want, and then we challenge it. What not what do you want now, but what do you want in the future? What's most important to you about your financial future? That's a question that we ask, and it's surprisingly difficult for some people to answer. And when they do answer, probably at least 75%, I would say, change their answer by the time we get to the end of the meeting because I become, and I've said this 100 times probably or more. I become the 2-year-old in the room. I'm going to ask you why.
Why? Why?
Why? Why is the sky blue? Well, why is it that you think you want that? And if you do that exercise with somebody that you love, they're going to let you off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let you off the hook. I'm going to challenge you. I'll ask why. I'll ask it in a little bit different phrasing so it doesn't get too annoying. But either you're going to be really annoyed or you're going to start laughing with me and we're going to have a good time. But often, once you get to the real why, which takes a few iterations,
Yeah.
the what often changes. But making a plan, right, without having a target is just kind of silly to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I mean, great. It's what my book is about. Don't build a portfolio, build the life that you want. The portfolio and the money is just the tool that you're going to use to build your best life. So, you give me a hammer and nail and a saw and some screws, screwdriver and all that. I could probably build you a very crooked, odd looking house, right? That may or may not stand up to a storm or rain or anything else.
Right.
I could do it, but would I probably hire a contractor and construction workers and electricians and plumbers? Absolutely. If I'm gonna live in this house for a while, I'm gonna do that. So the idea that you try and do it without some professional help is kind of crazy to me because this is not just a house. This is your entire financial future for the rest of your life. Yeah. And so give that tool, right, to somebody who understands it and has done it for their whole career, just like you're a really good teacher, lawyer, doctor, whatever. You know, don't entrust that to yourself if that's not what you do, if it's not your zone of genius. And don't I'm saying don't too many times, but don't trust all the stuff that you just hear in the headlines. The headlines can be our worst enemy.
That's right.
Like I said, all annuities are bad, all life insurance are bad, or all mutual funds are bad, or a lot of mutual funds are bad. They're outdated, but there are some that are very good and serve a purpose. Exchange traded funds, derivatives. I hear this all the time. Oh, derivatives, that's bad. We don't want any of those because they're risky. Well, where did you hear that?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Well, it came from some very big headlines that happened in the past where companies literally went bankrupt because they were involved in derivatives. Well, all derivatives must be bad. Well, that's not a good conclusion because
Mm-hmm.
derivatives can actually serve an amazing purpose in your portfolio. Derivatives are things like calls and puts and structured products and things like that. And those are some tools that here at Guardian Rock Wealth we use every single day to put people in a better position.
I always thought that if you were to look at a casino, life insurance is like the blackjack, and derivatives are like the craps table. There's just so many different options that you have with derivatives, and I get lost in them. So what do I do when I get lost in a product or vehicle? Is I don't even examine it because I'm like I don't even understand it. So maybe we have to do at some point a whole episode on just what derivatives are and how they benefit the
Yeah.
person that's investing.
Right. Yeah. No, that would be a good episode. We should do that sometime
All right, so
because
no
people
financial.
do get scared of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they
And they
do.
should. You shouldn't try and do that on your own. It's kind of like don't try and fly a plane if you don't have a pilot's license.
Yeah, there's a lot of gizmos and gadgets and buttons to push, and never push the red buttons. Let John be the guy to push the red button.
That's right.
All right, John, if somebody in our audience was interested in getting more information about how you do what you do, what's the best way to reach you guys?
The very best way is guardianrockwealth.com. Come out to our website. We've got a resources section there. We've got a contact us section. Click right on there. You can schedule some time on the calendar or grab your cell phone. Open up the texting app, dial 321-421-5213. Type in the word life, send that. You're going to get back a link to all kinds of free information. And we don't limit the information that we put out there. If you want to take it and use it, or you want to take it and bring it to your financial advisor and ask them about that, our our vision, our goal is to help as many people as possible get financially free, however it is that they define it. So if you want to take what we have and use it somewhere else, that's absolutely fine. That doesn't bother us.
And if you would, just for a second, give a plug to your YouTube channel. I know you spend a lot of time working on that channel as well, and you do. I think is it a daily? Is that how often you're doing that? How often are you? Yeah, I just see a lot of content coming across my feed. How often do you do that YouTube channel?
So the YouTube channel, it has this podcast on it, so you can watch this podcast, and see Doug's pretty face. Um,
God forbid.
or or you can I also do some single like longer form videos there. The day I do a daily market update. It's just recorded. You don't want to see me that early in the morning, trust me. So I just do it audio. That's located on Substack, the Building Your Life morning update.
Nice.
And I do that because I have to do the research anyway. And I often will get, what did you think about this? Or what did you think about that? Rather than fielding, 150 different calls, I send that out. It goes out to all my clients and anybody else who wants it. And it goes beyond the headlines and talks about some of the things that are not the sensational thing that you hear in the headlines, but maybe what it really means to you and your portfolio.
All right. And if you don't know what Substack is, ask your kids. They'll be they'll be
Yeah,
happy to tell
ask
you.
your kids. That's right.
And we'll
Yeah.
put, you know what? Can we put a link in the show notes for your Substack so people can actually get an opportunity to check that out if they have no idea what that is. It might be a good way for them to do that.
Yeah,
Just check
I
for the
will.
show
Yeah,
notes.
I'll make sure we get that done. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, John. Thanks for spending another great episode with us. I know you've done a lot of interview episodes. I feel like I've missed these opportunities to chat with you, but we'll continue on. Thanks for being here today, John.
All right, sounds good. See you next time.